This is your Apple Security Month in Review for October 2017, brought to you by Intego. Coming up, we've got news about Mac malware found on legitimate download servers, a Wi-Fi crack attack affecting countless devices, and could app developers be secretly spying on you through your camera? Keep watching to find out. One of the most significant bits of Mac-specific news in October was the discovery of another legitimate software developer whose download server was distributing compromised or infected versions of the company's apps. You may recall that the same thing happened back in May with the popular Handbrake video encoding software, and in 2016 the Transmission BitTorrent client was compromised on two separate occasions. This time, Ultima Software was the target, specifically its Mac apps LMedia Player and Folks, a download manager and BitTorrent client. If you've recently downloaded Ultima Software, be sure to visit blog.intego.com to learn how to find out whether your Mac was infected. A security researcher recently found a series of vulnerabilities in most implementations of the WPA2 Wi-Fi security protocol. Dubbed KRACK attacks, short for key reinstallation attacks, the vulnerabilities could enable a nearby attacker, within Wi-Fi range of a victim, to spy on all wirelessly transmitted data and in some cases even inject and manipulate data. According to the discoverer of the vulnerabilities, just about every device with Wi-Fi is likely vulnerable to KRACK attacks, including Mac and iOS devices. On October 31st, Apple released security updates for the three most recent versions of macOS, as well as iOS 11.1, tvOS 11.1, and watchOS 4.1, which addressed KRACK and other vulnerabilities. However, it's not clear that Apple has completely fixed the bug for all affected devices. Some models of iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Apple TV, and Apple Watch are notably left out from Apple's list of devices for which KRACK has been fixed. Moreover, Apple has not made any statement about whether its airport wireless base stations may be affected by KRACK and whether to expect firmware updates for them. Apple had not responded to our inquiries by the time this video was produced. An iOS developer named Felix Krause has warned about two potential attacks against iOS users. Krause claims that it's easy for any iOS app to spoof the Sign In to iTunes Store or Sign In Required system dialog boxes to steal the user's Apple ID password. There are a number of things that a diligent user can do to mitigate this attack, until or unless Apple takes action to prevent developers from spoofing system dialog boxes. First, when one of these dialog boxes appears while you're using an app, press the Home button. If you're taken to the iOS home screen showing your list of installed apps, then the dialog box you saw was a phishing attempt originating from the app you'd been using when the dialog box appeared. Second, don't even start typing your password into the dialog box until after you've followed step 1 to verify that the dialog box is legitimate. If it's a phishing attempt, then even if you click cancel instead of sign in, the app can still steal whatever portion of your password you've already typed. Third, enable two-factor authentication for your Apple ID. Although an attacker could potentially trick you into giving them a verification code to allow them to sign into your account, at least it gives you one more chance to realize you've made a mistake, back out, and change your Apple ID password before any harm can be done. Fourth, use a unique password for your Apple ID account. That way, if your Apple ID password does get stolen, an attacker won't be able to successfully use that password to break into your email or other accounts. And of course, if you have any reason to suspect that some third party has obtained your password, be sure to reset your password to something completely different, not merely a variation of an old password. Krause also warned that if you've ever authorized an iOS app to use your device's camera, the app retains that permission until or unless you explicitly revoke it. While that may not seem like a bad thing, and usually isn't, it could be a problem for apps from less ethical developers. Once a user has granted an app permission to use the camera, anytime the app is in the foreground, it has complete access to your front and back cameras. According to Krause, an app's developer could exploit this functionality to do some creepy things without the user's knowledge, including such things as secretly take pictures or stream video of the user whenever the user has the app open, determine the exact location of the user, create a 3D model of the user's face, or predict the user's mood based on facial expressions. Unlike MacBooks and iMacs, the iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch do not have indicator lights that warn a user whenever a camera is active. Krauss shares some ideas on how Apple might address this, but they would require significant changes to the hardware or software. There are a few ways that you can mitigate such attacks or unwanted uses of your camera. First, never grant an app access to the camera unless it's absolutely necessary. You can always start out by saying no, and if you later decide that an app really does need to use the camera, you can turn on the feature for that app temporarily via the Settings app, and turn off the feature when you're done using the camera with that app. Second, review your currently installed apps and revoke any permissions that you feel are unnecessary. In the Settings app, scroll to the bottom and review the list of apps that are currently installed. Tap on each one to see which permissions you've granted. Revoke any permissions that you feel are unnecessary. Permissions may include things like access to your camera, photos, location, or cellular data. Third, if you're still concerned, you can physically block the camera lenses on your device whenever you're not using them. You can find a variety of physical security products for sale online that can help you keep your cameras covered. U.S. Deputy Attorney General for the Department of Justice, Rod Rosenstein, called for responsible encryption, meaning weakened encryption that governments could bypass, along with any malicious party who gains access to a government's method of entry. The EFF's cybersecurity director Eva Galperin told CNET that calling it responsible encryption is hypocritical. Building insecurity in your encryption is irresponsible. Flash had a 0-day vulnerability, again. If you use Flash Player in Safari or Firefox on your Mac, check to make sure it's updated by going to https://get.adobe.com/flashplayer/about. Remember, adobe.com is the only place you should ever download Flash Player updates. More than 50 vulnerabilities have been mitigated in Netgear devices, including wireless access points, routers, switches, and network-attached storage. If you use a Netgear product, be sure to check for a firmware update. Facebook users should be aware of a scam that may enable a friend, or an attacker who's posing as your friend, or who has hijacked your friend's account, to gain control of your Facebook account after alleging that you're one of their trusted contacts. For details on these stories, see the link in the show notes. Also, Intego launched a new audio podcast featuring hosts Kirk McElhearn and me, Josh Long. Each week, we talk about Apple security and other topics of interest to Mac and iOS users. Go to podcast.intego.com or search for Intego Mac Podcast in iTunes. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and share it with your friends and family to help them stay protected. Are you keeping your Mac protected? Intego has been keeping Macs safe since 1997. And now you can get a free trial of Intego's Mac Premium Bundled X9 at Intego.com. As our way of saying thank you for subscribing and sharing this video, we're offering you 50% off when you use the promo code IntegoYT at checkout.